State of Decay 2 is one of those games that like I feel confident saying it's a good game and that's it. I don't feel confident saying it's a great game and I don't feel confident saying it's a weak game. I give it a solid 7, right? Pushing it to A I think would be too far. That's not a bad thing, right? A number 7. If someone said, "Hey Danny, I think you like look wise, I think you're a 7." I would be all right with that. I'm like, yeah, 7 isn't that? It's pretty good. It's two numbers above average. So I can technically say I look above average, but no one's ever called me a 7 as far as I know. Sad. Maybe a 5. That's like, I guess that's the one that you got to kind of like, it could have been a 4, bro. It was so close. 5 is so close to 4. If someone calls you a 4, now you can feel bad. But 5 is like, you mean I still have a chance? That's what 5 is. Stated Decay 2 is not a 5. It's a 7. So it's definitely passable. More than passable. That sounds bad, right? When you call something passable, it's like, I could do better, but you'll do. That's what passable means. It's not super deep, but it's also not super shallow. Like after a while, all the mechanics and the missions repeat themselves and the gameplay gets a little stale. And I feel like that happens much quicker on the lower difficulties. And I know that me personally, I like playing my games on hard. And this game does bring the challenge. Like I played a Nightmare community and got wiped maybe like 3 times. Nightmare would be the difficulty setting that's almost the last one. It's next to the last one. So you've got green, which is easy. You've got standard, which is normal. You've got dread, which is hard. You've got nightmare, which is very hard. And then you got lethal, which is extreme. So I was playing on Nightmare, which would be very hard, and I got wiped a few times. And I attribute that mostly to me not knowing the game mechanics. Like there's these things called plague hearts that you need to destroy once they're awakened. You need to destroy them regardless, even if they're dormant. But if they're awakened, they're a much bigger threat because they can send out infestations and like zombie sieges to your base and your some of the property that you own that gives you resources like ammo and food and all that. So as long as you keep them at bay for the most part, you'll be doing a lot of creeping around because fighting multiple zombies in nightmare mode is almost a death sentence unless you're well armed. And by well armed, I mean like not just a gun with bullets, which becomes even more scarce in the higher difficulties like nightmare and lethal, but also a silencer or a really mean melee weapon or some sort of talented survivor that has special fighting skills that you lucked out on when you pick them because it's RNG with a lot of these survivors. Some of them have traits that others don't. Some of them are exclusive to them, and some of them are not. So it's a death sentence fighting multiple. I was gonna say fighting multiple employees. Like I've been looking for a new job lately, and it's just these past few days have just been, well, not a few days actually, a few weeks. A lot of activity has happened at work, a lot that I don't like, and long story short, it's time to get out of there. It's been time to get out of there for quite a while, and it's all coming to a head now, right? Where it's like, okay, the writing was on the wall, but now that writing is way more clearer and brighter and bigger. It's like I really got to get out. So lately, I've just been filling out applications, just trying to move on peacefully, trying to be not burn any bridges. I know some people out there don't believe in that. They're like, this job fucking sucks. I'm out. I quit. They won't even give them 2 weeks. Yeah, I've been tempted to do that, especially when your managers, your quote unquote leadership does dumb shit. You want to just fucking leave. You want to kind of stick it to them by leaving prematurely, not letting them know. That's come across my mind on more than one occasion, but I'm like, I can't do that because I might come back. Because the problem is the department. The problem is, let me be more specific. The problem is them, management. And sadly, you know how that saying goes, right? People don't leave their jobs, they leave their bosses. And this is exactly one of those cases, sadly. I'm adding to the common cliche here, but it is true. I'm leaving because of my bosses, not because of my job. My job itself is pretty chill. Um, but that when you have someone that's new and they want to come in and make a name for themselves, they like to micromanage and they want to move things around, and you're just like, whoa, bro, like, I understand, and changes, there are some changes that need to be done in this department, but like, goddamn, you're going extra and you're making everyone miserable in the process. I mean, that's just a sign of bad management. Sadly, I've met many managers, or that they're looking for results, and they don't care if employee morale plummets. They don't care if they're making your life miserable. They just want results, right? Because they want to impress their bosses, or they want to make a splash, whatever the case may be. So like, that's just a sign of bad leadership. I don't care what anyone says, when you're doing things like that. So, speaking of management, State of Decay 2. Lots of managing. You've got to manage a bunch of survivors. The one thing I like about it, maybe I'm wrong because I didn't look into this deeply, you don't have to have a giant community, but if you wanted to, you can. You can have, I don't know how many survivors you can have in a community, but I've seen seven, nine. I think I've seen nine survivors. So it might be even more than that. I can't imagine having nine survivors. Like, I think I'll be good with maybe six or seven, six preferably. 4 to 6, I think, for me would be ideal. Just play very, very carefully and don't take huge risks in order for them to survive. Which is one mechanic that I do really like about this game is permadeath. Right, I believe that you can't shut off permadeath. Regardless of what setting you play, your character, once they die forever. And you play as a new survivor with different traits and different, pretty much anything. Race, genders, skills. So it feels like familiar but unfamiliar at the same time. Familiar because the mechanics and everything stay the same, but unfamiliar because that particular character is unique, sort of say. Um, that, like I said earlier, it's deep. It's not too deep, but it's not too shallow. And if you, this is one of those games that, once again, like I was getting at earlier, is that I like to play my games on a difficult level, like on a higher level, because I feel like that's when you get the most bang for your buck, because you really have to work for your survival, or in this case, it's survival, or but in order to beat the game or progress, you have to work for it. It's just not handed to you. And I've played many games where even on normal mode, it's just handed to you. You're just like, you're all powerful and all knowing, and you have way more resources and powers and maneuvers and weaponry and gear than the enemy, so you always have a leg up. I don't like that. I want to be even keel with the enemy, or even the enemy being a little more stronger than me, so I'll be able to be more tactical in my victory, right? It ain't just button mash, close my eyes, next thing I'm at the boss, final boss of the game. This game gets boring as shit for me when I'm playing it in standard, or even dread. I was playing with three other people, four in total in one session, uh, and we were all playing multiplayer. Multiplayer is a whole different subject itself, right? Because multiplayer in this game is like half baked. It's not good. Like, you guys all play together, but the host is the one that gets basically all of the resources. And give me 1 second. Sorry about that. So the host is the one that gets all of the resources, and um I believe it's even their world, their instance. So you guys aren't really, whoever joins the host isn't really part of the community. They're treated as visitors. So you just go in and you help them, you help the host get accomplish missions and procure, resources, ammo, food, medicine, but you never really, you know, all get together and work on the same community. Like, for example, like if you were to run a server, right? Anybody can join that server and they can add or subtract from that server. They can add buildings, they can destroy buildings. That world stays the same and anyone can join it. That's not the case of State of Decay 2. It's like a half-baked multiplayer. It's very weird. I hope part 3 they kind of give you the option to you know, the server I'm not worried too much about. It would be cool if State of Decay 3 has a server based, kind of uh, mechanic going on where you rent a server or you make your own server, whatever the case may be, or you play. Maybe not official servers because those get tricky, right? Like because you don't know how well the game's gonna do, you don't know how many people are gonna be on that server, so you're kind of like it renders your hardware kind of useless because even if you have top of the line hardware, it doesn't matter if that server is fucking packed and you're gonna get performance issues and all that. So maybe not server wide, but just a better implementation of multiplayer. Although I will accept server if you're allowed to make your own or rent one or whatever the case may be. But if not, then at least a full multiplayer where, you know, like take a game like Ghost Recon Wildlands. Is someone calling me? They are not calling me. I'm hallucinating. So if you're hearing like a buzzing sound, that's because for some reason, the people that work here in my apartment building, they know exactly when I'm gonna record, and they decide to do things when because the world revolves around me. You didn't know that? What the hell was I saying? So yeah, just a better implementation of multiplayer. Like Ghost Recon Wildlands had like I would be the host, and then we would jump in my world, and then my world is exactly the way I last left it when I played with my friends. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I would like State of Decay to be. So I'm not crazy about the multiplayer. I hope they make it a little more, I guess, cohesive. Um, yeah, like if you're one of those people, this goes down to like who you are, right? Like because for a long time I used to like even back then when I wasn't too big of a fan of playing games on hard, I would always play on normal, but never on easy. I don't remember playing games on easy. And that's because like even back then I didn't want the game to be too easy because I would get bored and you'll just breeze through it. For some people that's fun, right? Like you got to think about what kind of person is playing this game, right? Is it an older person who doesn't have as much dexterity as they once used to? So they want to play games on a, easier setting so they won't strain their hands, or maybe their vision isn't as good, but they still want to play the game. So of course you don't want to give it to them on nightmare mode and trying to kill the old man. And younger crowds too, kids that are 9, 10, well, at that point it's up to you as a parent to go, should they be playing zombie games of crazy gore? If you're one of those cool ass parents, then you'll let them. If not, then boo. But they got to learn somehow. Shut up. So even for kids, you don't want to have a 10, 11-year old playing on nightmare mode. They're gonna hate the game because it's super too tough of a challenge. So you want to put it on normal, maybe even dread if you want to torture them a bit. But so I understand the significance of difficulty levels, right? I didn't before because I was young and dumb. I didn't see anything past my nose. So I get it, but it's just if you're a capable adult, if you're old enough and you're about my age and you've been playing games for a while, put that shit on Nightmare or a little harder because I believe that's where this game truly shines, right? One of the reviews that I read for this game was that they felt like State of Decay was kind of boring. Uh, and I remember they said something that I it stuck with me. They were like, they're following the zombie apocalypse, the mundane things that you do in a zombie apocalypse a little too closely, which makes the game boring. So it's like the game is a little too mundane, so they found it boring, and that stuck with me because I did feel that in the lower difficulties, like in dread and normal. This is our second time playing this game. I should add, the first time we played was maybe 2021. It was like maybe 3-4 years ago. We finished it. I remember it was easy. I remember us standing on top of cars. I remember me sniping zombies, and we were just driving around hitting zombies with cars. We didn't really care about stats. We didn't care about losing ammo because we always had ammo, or we always like. But we had fun. That's the most important part, right? But we had fun because it was two other people. It was three in total. And of course, you can take a game that's mediocre as fuck, and if you add multiplayer to it, it significantly becomes better. Everyone knows that, right? So I felt like that was the case. It was a little too boring, and it kind of made me happy when I realized that after we finished it, we didn't play it for years, and during the course of those years, it had many updates, right? Updates that I wasn't even aware of. We ended up buying the Juggernaut edition for a ridiculously low price. When we first played it, it was on Xbox Game Pass, so none of us really bought it. We didn't own the game. We just kind of streamed it and played it or whatever. Well, in this case, we downloaded it, but whatever. We didn't own it. And it wasn't until recently, just a few weeks ago, that it was on sale at a Steam sale, a winter sale. And it was on sale for like a ridiculously dirt cheap price. It was like $3 or something. I was like, oh, and we don't know this and we played this before and we enjoyed it. I said, this is no brainer. Let's play this again. So we all did. We all bought it and we all enjoyed it. And we were all blown away at all of the updates, right? Including difficulty, right? Because when we first played it, I believe there wasn't a difficulty setting. I don't remember one at least. Maybe there was, but yeah, and I remember it was too easy. And one of the things that made me happy, which I was going to say earlier, was the fact that reviewers were saying that, and not only that, just average players, they were writing like this game's too fucking easy. Like it's very easy to cheese the AI. It's very easy to just get your community to god level because there's no real major threats. And I guess the Undead Labs, I believe that's the name of the developers of this game. They took that criticism and they kind of just added all these difficulty levels, which was great. It was something that was well needed. And but anyways, it makes me happy to know that there were people out there that were actually complaining that the game's too easy. And I'm like, good for you. I'm glad that you guys are out there trying to make your playthroughs a little more challenging. Which brings me to my whole original point, which is I genuinely believe that State of Decay 2 is best played when it's on a higher difficulty level, whether that's Nightmare or Lethal. I wasn't playing on Lethal. I wanted to, but the people I were playing with kind of were like, nope. And then, I've got one guy who likes to cheese his way through every game. He's always looking for exploits and, you know, he's always going online looking at walkthrough videos. He wants, everything. He wants his entire playthrough to be. He wants his handheld. He wants to know exactly what he's doing, how long it's going to take him, and it drives him crazy. He goes online. It drives me crazy because to me, I see that as like a weakness. Of course, at the end of the day, right, you play the game however the fuck you want to. I'm never going to tell him not to play a game this way or that way. I'll tell him that I hate it. I hate the way that he does play a game, but that's just me personally, and I won't tell him not to do it. It ain't like he's going to listen to me anyway if I did tell him. But I do see that as a weakness, right? Because it's almost like life, right? Like life is full of uncertainties. You don't even know if you're going to be living in the next hour. You don't know. You have no idea, right? No one does. Regardless of your status, regardless if you are a celebrity or an average person, like no one knows what's going to happen in the next hour. You can predict, you have a pretty good idea of what may happen and even the probability of that happening can be very high, but you can never say that's exactly what's going to happen with absolute certainty. You can never do that with just about anything in life. So that's something that you have to embrace. You have to embrace the unknown, right? Which is it's not easy to do, especially for someone like me who's like, I would say I'm anxious by nature. That's kind of like my demeanor. Like, well, let me be clear. My demeanor, I don't come off like I'm anxious. I kind of come off like I'm level-headed and cool to some people. At least that's what I've been told. Maybe not in those same exact words, but I am not fucking level-headed and cool. I can tell you that inside I'm like a nervous wreck. I'm like after when I get home, I'm like pacing back and forth thinking about the things that I've said or done. So that's not what cool people do. Cool people just let shit roll off their shoulders and they move through life, not even second guessing what they've done or said or looking back at the things they've done and said and then trying to analyze it and find a better way of doing it just in case this situation arises in the future. That's what I do. I'm an anxious mess behind closed doors. But I don't pretend to be a cool, level-headed guy. I feel like that's just my demeanor. That's just like I feel like it's not good to freak out in public, because obviously for you don't want to be freaking out at work. You probably won't have that job for long. That's just my opinion on things. What I'm saying is that I see that as a weakness, a person who's always looking for someone to hold their hand because it's like no one can coddle you. You're looking to get coddled. And it's like that's just life is weird like that. You got to just jump in. It's very difficult for him to just jump in and play a game without knowing anything. He has to look stuff up. Even the most basic, simple fucking games. It'll be like mobile games and he's looking up strategy. And I'm like, bro, relax. Relax. Just turn the game on and just go. Get lost. Get frustrated. Just learn the mechanics on your own. It's way more satisfying. But, people are going to do what they want to do. That's one thing, That's one thing I learned a long time ago. I don't know if it was a psychologist, not a psychologist I was seeing or anything, but just an article from a psychologist that said, I believe someone asked him a question like, how do you feel when you know you can't help a patient out? And I remember her saying, like, you can't help everyone out. She's like, you have to take this job knowing that every person you speak to is not going to listen to you. You have to know that. And I'm like, wow, if they're not listening to you, a professional who's literally trying to better their life. And not only that, it ain't like your homie, right? It's not like your friend where you guys are sitting down and he's just giving you bro science, or he's patting you on the back, or or your girlfriend or boyfriend giving you a hug, telling you everything's okay. Like, being consoled is great, but like sometimes you want professional advice to literally help you move forward with your life, whether that's professionally, whether that's personally. And who better than a psychologist or a psychiatrist, right? They literally have the tools to, hey, look, I can fucking help you. I know, I recognize this pattern of thinking is destructive or whatever the case may be, and I can help you get better. If people don't listen to them, right? What makes you think that, like, what was my original point here? Oh yeah, what makes you think that they're going to listen to someone like me who's just a regular guy, and I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm just a regular ass dude going like, "Hey man, just be tougher." They're going to be like, "Fuck you, man." So I guess that's something that I learned as I got older, right? Which is just understand that not everyone is going to listen to you. Don't take it personally. Just, shrug your shoulders, keep it rolling. Of course, I would recommend State of Decay to any day of the week. Even if you get it for full price, it's definitely worth a playthrough or two or three, because it does require several playthroughs to not only get like all of the cosmetic items, but also to you can like play these. I guess it's a new game plus type of deal where all of your surviving survivors will start a new community, but to keep their skills and stuff like that, so it makes the next playthrough easier. But this is a game that I definitely recommend to play on higher difficulty, because things are weapons and ammo, and they're more scarce, and enemies, whether that's zombies or even other player uh NPCs that can shoot you and stuff, uh they're also tougher to kill, which I'll get into that in a second. Yeah, it's not worth it playing on standard or green. Oh my god, green. I can't imagine how fucking easy that is. I mean, like I said, all four of us were playing on dread, which would be hard, and it was cake. We were smashing windows, we were making noise. It was not a challenge at all. I'm not even sure. I don't think I died once on dread, even though I got wiped 3 times on nightmare. As far as like NPC uh enemies, like enemies that aren't zombies, that are just shitty people trying to rob you or set you up, these people, this makes me excited when I first found the concept out to this, because I was like, oh shit, you can actually fight other humans that can shoot at you and be as tactical as you can be. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, until I fought them and I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? um it's not good. It's not good. It feels good killing them, because it's awesome to fight an enemy that's not like a zombie. Zombies don't use projectile for the most part. You've got like regular run of the mill zombies that just grab you and try to eat you. You've got the fat ones that blow up. Not boomers. Those are from Left 4 Dead. These guys are called bloaters or something like that. And then you've got like the really fast zombie that'll chase you down and keep dropping you to the ground, which are so fucking annoying. And you don't have, as far as I know, I don't think you have any spitters or any type of zombie like that that shoots projectiles at you. Maybe you do, but I can't remember right now. As far as I know, the only enemy that shoots projectiles at you would be actual enemy NPCs, right? Bandit AI or whatever. Those are the ones that shoot bullets at you, and it sucks, because that's one of the things I look forward to in a game. Like, I'm waiting for the Scum update where they're adding AI bandits, which I can't wait for that. You know, and I'm going back immediately when that update drops, right? Because I want to fight things that are more than zombies. And yes, you can say AI, not AI. You can say you can fight other players, but that's PvP. I'm not, me, I'm not wild about PvP. So it would be cool to add some, kind of like Tarkov. I hate to compare the games, but like kind of like Tarkov, where it's like, you have your NPCs, your AI bandits, but then you also have your. But it would be cool to just start a server with your friends and you guys can go and hunt not only zombies but also AI enemies. But in State of Decay 2, it's a fucking weird system where when you can shoot them in the head. I keep hearing that if you have like a really high caliber weapon, like a 50 cal, if you shoot them one time in the head with that 50 cal, they're dead automatically, right? Which makes perfect sense, and I'm glad that logic still sticks in State of Decay 2. However, even with a caliber that's more than capable of killing a human being, like even if it's a 9 millimeter, right? Like if you shoot someone in the face mid range, even close range with a 9 millimeter once, they should almost immediately drop, right? I think I would go out on a limb, don't know for sure, but I would go out on a limb and say that most people that get shot in the face with a 9 millimeter don't just take it. They don't just, and I understand this is a video game, but it is also a simulator. So I can hold it accountable for this, right? If it was just an arcadey Far Cry type game, those games are awesome, don't get me wrong, but it is an arcadey game, right? It's a game where you can literally be a bullet sponge. You can shoot an enemy multiple times in the head and they won't die. But that's forgivable because you're like, okay, this is a video game. But for a game that's like a half simulator, you got to hold it accountable when it's not doing things that are like semi-realistic. And in this case, you shoot a AI, and first of all, before you shoot them, they have these little black diamonds on top of their heads. Unless you're playing with the HUD off, which God bless you. But they have these little black diamonds over their heads, and once you shoot them in the head or you down them, whatever way it may be, they drop to the ground in this white silhouette icon. It looks like almost like a little man waving his hands, like in surrender or like stop. So when I first did this, I shot and they did the little, and I thought in my head like, okay, I downed him, he's surrendering, let me not shoot again, right? Like that means that they're incapacitated, right? So now I was thinking like now I can get the option to execute them or give them another chance, kind of like heal them up and maybe they'll get up and kind of go like, my bad, I fucked up, please let me live. No, they get right back up and start shooting at you. And this happens repeatedly unless you just empty a ridiculous amount of bullets on them, even when that little white surrender icon pops up. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish by this, but it's a shitty system, and I hope that in the next State of Decay they completely scrap it. Right? They should make it way more straightforward because it's super misleading. Right? You're shooting someone and you see a little white icon of a man going stop. What's the first thing you're gonna do? Right? If you're not a psycho, you're gonna stop. Right? You're gonna go, okay, well, I guess I beat him into submission, or I shot him into submission in this particular case. So I'll stop. No, they'll drop on the ground, they'll roll around in pain for a bit, and get right back up and start shooting at you like it never happened. And you're like, what the fuck? So now you like once and basically know this information before you start a State of Decay playthrough and you encounter NPCs, right? That have weapons. If they're hostile to you, you guys will never have the chance to be cool again. It's killed or be killed forever. Forever. There is no, you can't go back to being friends again. So if there's hostile NPCs on your map, there is no, you can kill them to submission. There is no reasoning, no bargaining, no talking. You have to gun them down, and I mean that literally. You shoot them, and once they're on the ground in a down state, you continue gunning them down. Like there is no mercy. And now that I said it out loud like that, that sounds kind of cool in a weird way, but it's not implemented well, right? Like if you see the silhouette of a young man, what the fuck am I talking about? You see this silhouette, like this white silhouette of a man moving his hands in this, like in this, in a way that's suggesting I surrender. Your first instinct is going to be to stop, right? You can't do that. You got to keep shooting at him. But just remove that whole icon, right? Just add, you know, just you shoot them in the head, they're dead. And I wish that was you too, right? That way you can be a lot smarter. So if you see 3 enemies inside of a house, oh shit, I'm most likely gonna die because I'm outnumbered, and if they shoot me in the head, I can die also just as quickly as they can, right? So what can I do? Be smarter, right? I already got the upper hand. I know exact where their exact locations are at because there's this black and red diamond over their head. So I can just throw a firebomb or maybe go around the back and kind of like, go into a doorway where they can all funnel out, come out in a straight file, and I can just pick them out like that. Be strategic because you can die just as easily, I would like that a lot. Maybe like a realism mode or something along those lines. Uh, we'll see. State of Decay 3, it's in development. It got announced 5 years ago. I don't know when it's coming out. I hope it's this year. That'd be cool. And yeah, you've got yourself a buyer here, someone who would really like to play the game. And because I like the first two, I actually played the first one. The first one was not multiplayer; it was single player, and I remember enjoying it. I don't remember if that one had a difficulty setting either, but I remember it was fun, and I had a lot of fun, and I finished it from beginning to the end. Um, yeah, overall, good game. Like I said, solid 7. Most definitely worth the playthrough. If you do, I highly suggest you put it on higher difficulties, nightmare at least. If you really think of dread, dread is like hard mode. Think of that as normal mode because normal mode is easy. And then easy mode itself is just at this point is practice. So dread would be normal. If you really don't want to, you still want to kind of have fun. You want a balance between enough resources and just enough challenging. Dread would be it. So dread and up, I would suggest, but I would say be a man and start off in nightmare. Be a man. Be a toxic man. I'm out of here. Talk to you guys on the next one.